Okay, we'll have a quick look at symbols and key symbols in Lord of the Flies. Lord of the Flies is 4 symbols, and kind of objects and things have much kind of wider allegorical meanings. So I've put here golden uses symbolism in order to show the fragility of goodness on the island. So we know that at the end of the novel, Ralph is kind of rescued by that naval officer. Okay, and listen, that naval officer, the book begins with the idea of war and it ends with the naval officer. And for me, Golding's pointing to the idea that the 20th century is controlled by conflict. Okay, he shows that savagery has no end. So the boys arrive there because of a plane crash to issue that the plane's been shot down. And by the end, it's only people who are at war who save them. So war is kind of encompassing. And I suppose, given the fact that Golding had fought in the Second World War and had lived through the First World War, that isn't surprising. The naval officer is also the ultimate symbol of authority and hierarchy. Okay, and I suppose Golding at that point is saying that hierarchy is needed for order. There's an irony that these boys think they can create this life on the island, but really it's adult grown-ups that save the day. Okay, like I said, basically know your symbols, know your books. So the second one we're going to look at is fire, and I've got these 4 questions on fire. You might just pause the video at this point and you might think, could you answer those? Okay, so fire then. So I'm going at top left from here. So for Ralph, fire equals rescue and therefore order. For him, fire brings warmth, light, comfort, because all of those things are key to having a civil life. You need all of those things. Okay, we know that fire means something very different to Jack, and in our lessons we've called Jack a twisted Prometheus. Okay, and we know in Greek mythology Prometheus stole fire from the gods to give to the people, but Jack goes to steal fire from Piggy and Ralph to give to the gods, so his hunters. So this sense of him being a dictator, he takes fire from the common good to use himself. It links in with that motive of heat as well in this text. We know that heat is oppressive and it's controlling, and at the end, the island being on fire represents that explosion of savagery. All the way through this text, we've had this build-up of heat. The heat hit him. Water was warmer than blood. Okay, it was a bath of heat and stuff like that, and by the end that kind of eruption happens. And then at the end, Jack uses fire to destroy, but ironically it's the fire that nearly destroys the island that alerts the naval officer and creates safety. So without knowing it, Jack actually brings about rescue. Okay, the next important symbol we're going to think about is Piggy's glasses. So again, you might pause the video, have a think about those 4 questions. Alright, so Piggy's glasses then. So I'm at top left. Firstly, the glasses signify Piggy as being different to the rest of the boys. He's the only one who wears glasses, and it represents that from the beginning he's this character who is the loner, he's the outsider, or in English we sometimes use the term the other. Okay, he's the different one. I'm at bottom, I'm at top right here. Okay, it's quite foreboding because those glasses represent the idea that there is rational and there is intelligent, and we know that that's proven to be true, but they also show that Piggy's got a vulnerability. He needs something to help him to see, and he's reliant on these glasses, and when he doesn't have the glasses he can't see what's happening. Bottom left, so when Piggy is hit by Jack early on, the glasses smash and he can't see. What does it symbolise about Piggy and his life on the island? So we know from quite early on in the text, Piggy becomes half blinded and therefore he's vulnerable. So much like the pigs themselves on the island, he's now vulnerable to the mob. And you know, if you think about, suppose that checking out my history, blindness equals vulnerability. And we know that Jack steals these glasses to create fire, okay? And that's the thing that saves the island. So even though Piggy dies before this saviour, ironically, his glasses, so Piggy himself, brings about the civility. We've always called Piggy the father of civility, and even in death, he saves these boys. Okay, next obvious symbol that we want to look at is the conch. So again, you might pause the video, you might have a look at those 4 questions. Okay. Okay, so I'm at the top left then. So we know that in this book, the conch is described as creamy, as gleaming at different times. Okay, it's also described as being like pink and fragile. And you know, the fact that it gleams at the beginning shows that at the beginning there's a real power in the civility. But we know a shell is easily broken. So the fact that it's the shell that represents it shows how fragile civility is. Okay. Piggy and Ralph, they both caress and cradle the conch, because we know that Piggy and Ralph are the protectors of civility. When you cradle something, it's like you cradle a child to protect and calm them. And that's why we call Piggy the father of civility. He cradles that conch. So we get the sense, because they cradle and caress, they love and protect, that they're heroes. We know that Jack ends up not caring about the conch, bollocks the rules, and the conch doesn't count on this part of the island. And when he says things like, we'll have rules when everyone breaks them. Okay. The way that Jack is happy to forget or disregard either the conch itself, the conch doesn't count, or what the conch represents, bollocks the rules, is just Golding showing us how dictators will destroy order and rules to get what they want. He represents that worst of the 20th century dictators, okay? And that's Golding's warning, that these people will start playing by the rules, but they'll quickly disregard the rules. And we know that it's important that the conch exploded into 1,000 white fragments and ceased to exist. So we know that that's about the death of Piggy. When Piggy dies, the conch dies with him. And we've got that warlike lexis there. It implies that the conch can never return again. And that's Golding's warning. You know, if something explodes, it's no more. And that's what we see on this. Okay, so that's the conch. The video there that you might look about symbols, and then finally I've given you a couple of paragraphs that you might write using the quotations that we talked about. Okay, so that's about symbols.